See, after having discussed the unitary features and the federal features of Indian Constitution, we have also summed up the nature of Indian Federation, whether it is a truly federal, quasi-federal, right? So we have discussed what are the unitary features of the Indian Constitution, federal features of the Indian Constitution, and the nature of Indian Federation. So then let's move to center-state relations. Center-state relations. See, part 11. Part 11 of the Indian Constitution deals with the center-state, legislative relations, as well as the administrative relations. There are two chapters in part 11. Chapter 1, Chapter 2. So part 11, it deals with the center-state legislative relations, center-state administrative relations, but not center-state financial relations. So part 11 does not deal with the center-state financial relations. So part 11 deals with only center-state legislative relations, center-state administrative relations. So part 11 contains two chapters. Chapter 1 deals with the center-state legislative relations. Chapter 2 deals with the center-state administrative relations. And when it comes to Chapter 1, articles from 245 to 255, articles 245 to 255, they deal with the center-state legislative relations. Article 245 to 255 deal with the center-state legislative relations, especially in the group 2. I am not talking about civil services. In the group 2, this is one type of question which is coming in the exam. Legislative relations are dealt by which one of the following articles? 245 to 255, Article 1 to 4, 6 to 11, 12 to 35, something like this. So that also you should remember, because this is one type of question coming in the group 2 exam. Then let's move to the first article, Article 245. And before we discuss Article 245, the division of powers, I told the definition of federal constitution is, if the executive powers, legislative powers, financial powers, if they are divided between the center and the states, then a constitution which provides for such a division is called federal constitution. Let's compare India with America, Australia, Canada when it comes to the division of executive, legislative and financial powers. Remember, in India, between the central government and the state governments, there is division of executive power, legislative power, financial powers, but not judicial powers. So judicial powers are not divided between the center and the states. In India, we have the same set of courts for both the center and the states. That's why it is called integrated judiciary. Integrated judiciary. But in America, even the judiciary is divided between the center and the states. The judiciary of the states is independent of the judiciary of the federal government. That you should keep in mind. Executive powers, legislative powers, financial powers are divided, but not judicial powers. In India, judicial powers are not divided. We have the same set of courts for the center as well as the states. That's why we call it as integrated judiciary. Then Indian Constitution provides for triple enumeration. I told this. Indian Constitution provides for triple enumeration. So Article 246. And what is the schedule? 7th schedule. So Article 246 is explained under 7th schedule. So Article 246 deals with the three lists which are mentioned in the Indian Constitution. List 1, Union list, 98 items. List 2, state list, 59 items. List 3, concurrent list, 52 items. So in India, there is a triple enumeration. there are three kinds of subjects: union list, state list, concurrent list. And if any subject of administration doesn't find a mention in any of these three lists, that is called residuary power. If any subject of administration, if it doesn't find a mention in either of these three lists, then that is called residuary power. For example, take disaster management. These two keywords, disaster management, where do you see in the 7th schedule? It's not there in the concurrent list. These terms, disaster is not mentioned in any of the three lists. Disaster, it is not mentioned in the union list. It is not mentioned in the state list. It is not mentioned even in the concurrent list, which means this is the residuary power. So all the unenumerated powers are called residuary powers. The powers which are not mentioned in the constitution. The powers which are not mentioned in the 7th schedule, they are called unenumerated powers. All these powers in India, they are given to the center. They are given to the parliament. Compare this with America. In the United States of America, the American federal constitution speaks about only one list. That's why it is called single enumeration. Single enumeration. Same is the case with Australia. United States of America, Australia, they have single enumeration. What do you mean by single enumeration? The constitution speaks about only one list. So in United States of America, the American federal constitution speaks about federal list. What do you mean by federal list? So the subjects of administration where the federal government has power. The subjects of administration where the federal government has power, they are enumerated in the American constitution. What about the powers of the states? All those which are not enumerated. See, subjects of administration which are of national significance, they are identified, they are kept in the constitution. On all these, federal government is powerful. And in all the remaining, states are supreme. So that's why we say residuary powers are given to the states in America. What do you mean by residuary power? The American Constitution speaks about a minimum number of subjects of administration where the federal government has power. And in all the remaining subjects which are not enumerated in the Constitution, they entirely go to the states. So American Constitution, it is an example for single enumeration. The American Constitution speaks about only federal list on which the federal government has power. And on all the remaining things, which are not enumerated in the federal list, states are supreme. So that's why in United States of America, residuary power is given to the states. That's why America being a true federal constitution, in America the states are strong compared to the center. In India, residuary powers are given to the center. Center is strong, states are relatively weak. So that is Australia, America. Then if you take Canada, Canadian Constitution. See, Indian Federal Constitution is based on Canadian Constitution. Even Canadian Constitution provides for a strong central government. America is a federation, Canada is also a federation. But in American Constitution, the states are strong, but in Canadian Constitution, the center is strong. In American Constitution, the residuary powers are given to the states. Under Canadian Constitution, the residuary powers are given to the center. So we have borrowed this feature from Canada. Residuary powers given to the center and a strong center. These two things we borrowed from Canadian Constitution, not American Constitution. So under the Canadian Constitution, there is double enumeration. So Canadian Constitution speaks about two lists. Central list. Central list. In Canada, the regional governments, they are known by the name provinces, not state. Even in India, before India's independence, they were known as British Indian provinces. Post-independence, they are renamed as states. states. So in Canada, the regional governments, they are known as provinces. So Canadian Constitution speaks about two types of lists: central list, provincial list. Again telling it state, provincial list. Provincial list. Clear? So this is called a double enumeration. So the Canadian Constitution speaks about two lists: central list, provincial list. And any subject of administration which is not mentioned in these two lists, that is called residuary power. So residuary power under Canadian Constitution is given to center. That is single enumeration, double enumeration, triple enumeration. And also I have given the definition of residuary. So all those powers which are not mentioned in the Constitution, they are called residuary. Australia, America, residuary powers are given to states. Canada, India, residuary powers are given to center. So after this, let's get started with the first article under legislative relations. Article 245. Article 245. So Article 245, again in the Group 2 exam, the questions are coming on a particular article. Which one of the following article deals with pardoning powers of the president? Which one of the following articles deals with the subject matter of laws made by the parliament and state legislature? So if you are preparing for the Group 2 exam, you must know what each article contains. What each article contains. It is not enough to understand what is there in the article. You should also remember it. Understanding is one part, remembering is another part. Group 2, you should remember the fact as well. Which article deals with what subject matter? Clear? So Article 245 deals with the subject matter of the laws made by the parliament and the state legislature. Article 245, territorial extent. Territorial extent. Territorial extent. See, subject matter, it is dealt by Article 246. I stand corrected. Subject matter is dealt by Article 246. Article 245 deals with the territorial extent of laws made by the parliament and state legislature. What does that mean, territorial extent? A law made by the Indian Parliament extends to the entire territory of India, states, union territories. So a law made by the Indian Parliament can be applied to a particular part of Indian territory or to the total part. That is the territorial extent of laws made by Parliament. So laws made by the Parliament can apply for a part of the territory or for the entire territory. If the Parliament makes a law, it can apply it only to a specific area or it can apply it for the entire country. It is the choice of the Parliament. Similarly, the laws made by the state legislature, they can be applied for a part of the state or for the entire state. For example, Telangana state legislature has made a law. That law can be applied only to the city of Hyderabad or it can be applied for the entire territory of Telangana. It is the choice of the state legislature. So that is the meaning of territorial extent. So the laws made by the parliament and the laws made by the state legislature, they apply to what extent of territory? So laws made by the Indian Parliament, they apply to a part of the territory of India or the entire territory of India. Territory of India here includes all the state governments, all the union territories. And then there is something more than this. There is something called extraterritorial legislation. Extraterritorial legislation. Extraterritorial legislation. What is this? For example, can a law made by the state legislature of Telangana, can it apply for a territory which is outside the state of Telangana? There is an exception. So in general, it shall not apply. A law made by the Telangana state legislature applies only to the territory of Telangana, not beyond it. But there is one exception. What is that? For example, if you take Killer Veerappan, if he belongs to which state? Karnataka or Tamil Nadu? Assume that he has belonged to Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, and he is doing crimes in the state of Karnataka. Killer Veerappan belongs to Tamil Nadu, but he is doing crimes in the state of Karnataka. So in such a situation, crime is done in the state of Karnataka. Crime is done in the state of Karnataka, but the person belongs to Tamil Nadu. So when a case is booked against Killer Veerappan, who is committing crimes in the territory of Karnataka, but he is staying in Tamil Nadu, then in such a case, the law made by the Karnataka state legislature will apply even in the territory of Tamil Nadu for that particular person. Because there is a nexus, there is a link. Because crime is committed in Karnataka, but he is staying in Tamil Nadu. That is the only exception. So, this you should remember. If there is a nexus between subject and object, then the state laws can have extraterritorial jurisdiction. Right? Then another example. Can laws made by the Indian Parliament, can they apply beyond the territory of India? A law made by the Indian Parliament, I told that it applies to a part of the territory of India or the entire territory of India. My question is, can a law made by the Parliament apply even beyond the territory of India, outside India? Yes, it will apply. That is called extraterritorial legislative power of the Parliament. So it will apply to all the Indian citizens. You are a citizen of India, you are staying in United States of America. So the law made by the Indian Parliament can be applied to you, your properties in America, your income in America. Remember, extraterritorial here in the sense beyond the boundaries of the states. So extraterritorial power is there only for the Parliament, not to the state. If Killer Veerappan goes from Karnataka to United States of America, then the laws of the state legislature of Karnataka cannot be applied in United States of America. Clear? Earlier I gave the example. Killer Veerappan committed a crime in Karnataka residing in Tamil Nadu. In such a situation, laws made by the Karnataka state legislature can be applied in the state of Tamil Nadu. But if this man runs away to United States of America, the law made by the Karnataka state legislature cannot be applied in United States of America. No. But only the laws made by the Parliament can be applied. So Parliament alone has the extraterritorial jurisdiction. Parliamentary laws have extraterritorial jurisdiction, which means the laws made by the Indian Parliament can be applied beyond India for the citizens who are living abroad. So if Chaitali goes and makes a lot of money in the United States of America, but she is a citizen of India, then she can be subjected to taxation of the Indian government. She can be subjected to the tax laws made by the Indian Parliament because she is citizen of India. Right? That is called extraterritorial jurisdiction. That is Article 245. Clear? So Article 245 deals with the territorial extent of the laws made by Parliament, territorial extent of the laws made by the state legislatures, and also the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the laws made by the Parliament. Clear? Then let's move to 246. Article 246. Article 246, it deals with the subject matter of the laws made by the Parliament and the laws made by the state legislatures. Subject matter means on what subjects Parliament can make law, on what subjects state legislatures can make laws. So Article 246, it deals with the subject matter of the laws made by the Parliament and the laws made by the state legislature. This we have discussed already several times. I told Article 246 under the 7th schedule speaks about 3 lists. Union list is list 1. List 1 is union list. What about list 2? State list. List 3? Concurrent list. So don't get confused. List 2 is concurrent. No. List 2 is state list. List 1, union list. List 2, state list. List 3, concurrent list. So on all these subjects in the union list, Parliament can make laws. on all the subjects in the union list, Parliament can make laws. So that is the subject matter of the laws made by the Parliament. So where the Parliament can make laws, on what subjects Parliament can make laws, that is discussed by Article 246. Parliament can make laws on all the subjects in the union list. In the original Indian Constitution, so the Constitution of India came into force on 26th January 1950. So every year we celebrate 26th January as the Republic Day. Even this year we have celebrated very recently. So in that original Indian Constitution, union list contained only 97 items. 97. So but this number in course of time increased up to 100. But in 2016, through 101 Constitutional Amendment Act, and this relates to GST. Through 101 Constitutional Amendment Act, so when this amendment was done, before this amendment was done, union list contained 100 items, but 2 entries were deleted from the union list. So 100 minus 2, 98. So now the union list contains 98 items. On all the 98 items in the union list, Parliament can make laws. So this is the subject matter of the laws made by the Parliament. That is one thing. Then list 2. List 2. I told what is list 2? State list. On all the items in the state list, state legislatures can make laws. On all the items in the state list, state legislatures can make laws. In the original Indian Constitution, which came into force on 26th January 1950, the state list contained a total of 66 items. 66 items. But what happened in 1976? In 1976, through the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, done by Mrs. Indira Gandhi government, so this is the period of emergency, internal emergency. So in 1976, through the 42nd Amendment, 5 items were moved from the state list to concurrent list. And what are they? Education. No, not agriculture. Education, forests, protection of wild animals and birds, protection of wild animals and birds, in other words, wildlife, wild animals and birds, protection of wild animals and birds. Then weights and measures, weights and measures, weights and measures. Then what is the 5th one? Administration of justice, organization and administration of justice in the courts other than Supreme Court and High Court. High Court is in the union list. Supreme Court is in the union list. The remaining courts, they are in the concurrent list. Earlier they were in the state list. Through the 42nd Amendment, they were moved to the concurrent list. Am I clear? In 1976, through the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act done by Mrs. Indira Gandhi government, 5 items were moved from the state list to concurrent list. What are those 5 items? Education, forest, protection of wild animals and birds, weights and measures, administration of justice and organization of courts, all courts other than Supreme Court and High Court. Other than Supreme Court and High Court. Supreme Court and High Court, they don't come. They are in the union list. Subordinate courts. So earlier this is in the state list. But in 1976 it was moved to concurrent list. So 66 minus 5, 61. 66 minus 5, 61. And again in the recent past, in 2016, through the 101 Constitutional Amendment Act, 2 more entries were deleted from the state list. So 61 minus 2, 59. So now the state list contains 59 items. On all these 59 items, the state legislatures have powers to make laws. Then